Welcome on in, everybody, to a Victory Week edition of the Big Play Cleveland Show. I'm Nick Padone. He is Chris McNeil. We'll be joined by Gabriella Cruz very shortly. Having some fun on today's show, Chris, is obviously the Browns were winners against the Jacksonville Jaguars, so we're going to jump into that. We're going to have our featured in-studio interview this week is Cleveland Guardians catcher Austin Hedges. Gab will be in studio with us for that, and then we're going to bring the heat with Jensen Lewis, presented by Northeast Factory Direct. We'll hit you guys with some fill in the blank and some Browns headlines presented by Affinity Whole Health. But Chris, it was a fun weekend of Browns football. Finally got that first dub. It's crazy to say week 2 finally, but after that last week that we had, the Browns needed that win against the Jaguars.
From a fan perspective, it really felt like it was hard earned. Yeah. After everything we went through last week, another allegation for Deshaun Watson, we had more injuries, more questions along that offensive line, and really came into this Jacksonville game on the road with a lot of questions left unanswered for this Cleveland Browns team. And as we walk away, I don't know that we answered a whole lot of them, Nick, but what we did do, we came away with a victory, and that feels real good. Get off just the schneid right now. You're second in the division right now behind Pittsburgh at 2-0. We're 1-1. We're not one of the two teams in this division, Nick, that hasn't won a game yet this year. So that feels pretty darn good as we sit here, especially as we look out over the next 3 games in the schedule for the Cleveland Browns. So feel a lot better in this seat this week than what I did last week, and everybody else should as well.
How about that? I mean, Baltimore Ravens 0-2, Cincinnati Bengals 0-2. The Cleveland Browns, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't without headache, but they found a way to go 1-1. That's the best kind of victory Monday. You know that there's things to improve upon. You're able to look ahead. Up next, you got the lowly New York Giants. Certainly a winnable game awaits you, but at least for one day, you're able to celebrate a victory. You're able to get off that schneid, and you're able to really get ready to go for this game against the Giants with a win in your back pocket. Hey, we're going to bring in Austin Hedges. Don't go anywhere. More of the Big Play Cleveland Show right after this.
Welcome back to the Big Play Cleveland Show. We've got in studio our very special Garage Beer featured guest, Austin Hedges, Cleveland Guardians catcher and World Series champion, Austin Hedges. Thanks for coming down to our humble studio.
This is great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we were just talking about your home run this week. Go ahead, tell us about your little pimp job on it.
I mean, it was a special one in my career. Not too many guys in their careers have gone to the special number of 69 career home runs. So, we were talking about it before the day. Both Lane and I at the same time had 68 of them. He ended up hitting his 69th the other night. So good job, Lane. But it was just like, I don't know, it was a good day for the boys to go out and get a sweep, a much needed sweep in Chicago, division rival. And, I don't hit too many of them anymore. So definitely needed to give the boys a little something.
What are the vibes like? Obviously right now you guys are in the thick of it. We're getting ready to make what seems to be a fun playoff push. I know you're kind of like the inherited vibes officer, it seems, keeping everybody up and loose. What are currently the vibes like in the clubhouse for the people that aren't in there on the day-to-day?
They're really consistent. Yeah. Our guys, I mean, whether we're hot at the beginning of the year, whether we were scuffling a little bit in August, everybody shows up to the field the same every day. Yeah. It's really impressive, and it's hats off to Stephen Vogt. He runs our team and leads our team, and he's so consistent. He shows up the same every day. He's such a good communicator. He's just got a good positive energy that he expects a lot out of us, but also he expects a lot out of himself, and I think that's what we all pull together in that way, where it's a winning culture. Everything is about winning and caring about each other. And when your goal for each day and for the season is so clear and simple, it's a lot easier to accomplish that goal.
Yeah, and you guys have done a lot of winning this year, and it's been a very fun ride for the fans. Obviously, you had a stop here before. What's it like playing in front of the Cleveland fans versus some of your other stops that you've made around baseball?
I've had some, I don't need to name any names, but I've had some places or a place that wasn't that great. and some ones that are just okay. Obviously, I won a World Series last year in Texas, so I got nothing but good things to say about my Texas people. So you can cut that one off the list
for sure.
Definitely trying to run it back here this year in Cleveland. But they're amazing. I love this city. I was actually telling Gab earlier that a kid growing up in Southern California, it's not a big, they like sports, but not anyone's from San Diego. Not everyone's from Orange County or LA. They're from Cleveland or Pittsburgh or Boston, and they moved there. And then when I got traded over here to Cleveland, everyone's from Cleveland. Every bar you go to on a Sunday, they're rooting for the Browns. You know what I mean? Like if you go to a bar in San Diego, there's going to be a Patriots bar and then a Browns bar and a Steelers bar. And it's like, it's really not that cool. But here it's like, it doesn't even matter whether it's the Guards or the Cavs or the Browns. Like it's like whatever team's going on, like this is our team, this is our city. And I felt like the second I got here, I felt like I was a part of that. And I had never really felt that before. And one of the reasons why I was so excited to come back.
For sure. Well, credit to you too, because you embraced it. The people love that shirtless photo of you with the cigar. I see after every home run.
Oh,
so.
That was the one I should have painted today.
The cigar.
That'll be at part 2. Yeah. I took him.
We'll run it back. Though.
Yeah,
I'll
run
have
it back.
Another cigar, probably shirtless.
We took Austin for a cruise in Cleveland before this, so stay tuned for a very interesting painting that Austin did. We'll let the crowd decide what they think of it.
And setting the stage for a future one on jet skis?
Potential Austin Hedges on jet skis.
I'm
in
better
Cleveland.
at jet skiing than painting.
I'll let you redeem yourself for sure.
Yeah.
I guess if you're not good at jet skiing, that's a problem because
I'm not good at jet skiing.
Well,
okay. So we've got to figure this out here.
It has to do.
Squeeze.
Yeah, but
you
I can't
just
control the
squeeze
wave.
and then you go forward.
My thing is like, have you ever seen your life flash before your eyes because you hit a wave that was like you and you just like don't
caught a little air.
And I really thought that I didn't want to risk my future chance of having children. Like that's what it felt like it could have been at one point. I was either going to lose my teeth or not be able to have kids.
It is. I'll tell you what. I have a funny jet skiing story. I was in Cabo with my buddies a few years ago, and they didn't want to jet ski, but I was like, I like jet skiing. I'm going to rent a jet ski. So I'm out there. I'm cruising around. There's dolphins. I'm following them around. Then I like come closer to shore to like show off to the boys. I'm like, all right, here we go. And I'm like going. I try and like whip it around real fast. I swear I went flying off this thing like 100 yards. And like I felt like I'm like, here we go. This is it.
See?
Why did I do this? This is such a terrible idea.
Did you have any injuries?
The lanyard like smacked me in the mouth and cut my lip a little bit.
Oh, okay, all right.
So that was the only real injury.
Not bad, all things considered. But you could see why I've never gotten out there since.
Yeah, and
we're
we're saving this next jet ski trip till after the World Series this year.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, after.
Okay, McNeil.
Speaking of, for the Guardians, a big part of our run so far this season, and no secret to anybody, has been this bullpen. You're catching guys like Emmanuel Clase. Talk about this bullpen, what they've been able to do this year, and what it's like catching these guys.
It's so cool because there's been guys that have done it before, but then there's been a lot of guys that really haven't. This is Tim Herron's coming out party. This is Hunter Gaddis's coming out party. Cade Smith's coming out party. There's so many guys. Pedro Avila has been an absolute blessing for our team. Like how much we have used him. That guy doesn't care if he's coming in the first inning, the 8th inning, up 1, down 10. He doesn't care, and that is such a huge, important piece for a winning team. But the growth from the young guys and how confident they are to get the ball in high leverage, as a first-place team all season. That's hard to do. It's hard to stay in first place all season. So all of these guys have been pitching these leverage innings while on a first-place team with that pressure to be like, man, we're here. Like these guys haven't been here before. So they're learning as they go. And that is so hard. I feel like I wasn't in that frame of mind that they're until year 4 in the big leagues. These guys are doing it in year 1. And I'm so impressed with the people first and foremost, because it's that's a human out there on the mound that, even as good as Cade Smith is, big situation, that guy's going to be nervous. Clase is going to get nervous. Like everybody is, you're still a human out there that cares and you want to win. So what they've done on a consistent basis, hats off to them, and hats off to our coaching staff. I think we have the best pitching development in the league. And I think it's clear. I think it's one of the reasons we have the best pitching in the league year after year.
How about some of the young guys we've had from the hitter standpoint? We've had some guys bouncing in between Columbus up to Cleveland. What's your role in kind of mentoring these guys or helping them along as they hit the big club for the first time or maybe the second or third time?
Yeah, I mean, just as an offense this year, we're trying to impact the ball more. We're trying to slug more and not just be kind of a station-to-station singles team. And so with that, like we gotta take some chances, and it's tough. I mean, as someone that my offensive career has not gone the way that I would have wanted it to necessarily. But at the same time, 2
home runs this season. Though.
That's right.
2 home runs.
Doubled my total from last year.
That's right. 69 total.
But on that note, like I do have a good idea of what it takes to be a good hitter. I'm not necessarily going to go execute that, but I have an idea of. That was a good laugh over there. I have a good idea of. So I tell them, do as I say, not as I do, right? Yeah. And so, like, just as someone that's called so many pitches to so many good hitters, I know what a good plan is and what the presence is like from a guy that is a scary hitter. And the two things are it's slug and walk, right? So it's OPS. So it's like the best hitters swing at their pitch, and if it's not, they just take. You just flat out do not swing. And when you do swing, it's your A swing. There's no, reaching for anything, like chasing pitches, like taking your B or C swing. When you watch the best hitters, they don't do that. And they're okay with swinging and missing while taking their A swing. So those are just some things that I've noticed that I try and pass along. And then when in doubt, I say, hey, just watch number 11 play, and he'll answer all your questions.
That's good. How about this? I wanted to ask about mound visits. What are those like? Like, what do you say when you go up to a mound? Like, crack a joke, give advice, mix of both? Like, what are those like?
It's usually some attack plan. There's some times where a pitcher might need a breather, where you're literally just out there kind of breathing and laughing a little bit. I've tried the jokes here and there. I don't think they go that well.
Okay.
In general, when you're giving
is
a
it your
mound
material
visit,
or is it just?
Oh, my material is amazing.
Of course.
The delivery
it's
it's
the audience.
So good.
It's the audience.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's usually in a mound visit, my guy out there doesn't want to hear a joke right now.
Yeah.
As funny as I might think it might be, like he's like, I just gave up 3 runs this inning, dude. Shut up. But so in general, I'd say 9 out of 10 mound visits, you're doing something to break up momentum, give your pitcher a chance to breathe, and usually a lot of times in those situations, that pitcher doesn't necessarily have a strategy to overcome the situation at hand. So let's say there's second and third, there's 2 outs, and I'm facing player A. And to get player A out, like there's a plan for it. So my job is to go out there and just give him a plan. Give him an attack strategy. Hey, remember, this guy, we're safe away. If we get to 2 strikes, we can go up. But ideally, we're going to throw him a first pitch slider. We got to stay stubborn with a spin on this guy. It's like, okay, like now I have a plan, because that's really all that matters. I just need you to go and execute a plan. The situation doesn't really matter. You got to execute a pitch. And so it's just giving them something to focus on, anything other than all the distractions that get you off your plan.
Very good. And I think we've got a video too, Austin. I've got to ask you a question about some video that we got. This is back in June. I believe this is in Baltimore. Looks like you've got an energy drink of some sort that you're shotgunning there. Now, at the end of this video, watch 10 out of 10 on the shotgun, by the way.
That's decent speed. I've been getting better.
And then this. Who did you kill here, Austin?
So sadly, I hit maybe one of my favorite people in the whole organization, in Sandy Alomar. God,
Sandy Alomar, who's a legend in this town, been here forever. You plunk with a can.
To my credit, it was an empty can. It was an empty can.
It wasn't anything
does
left.
not. If
you cleared that whole thing.
If I cleared the whole thing, I do promise that.
Okay.
If you, I just challenge anybody to go pick up an empty Red Bull can and realize that it weighs nothing. So I think Sandy exaggerated a little bit. It kind of hit him like in the
you got him in the noggin.
In the temple.
Okay,
in the temple.
You could have killed Sandy
I could have
Alomar.
killed. If I did, I mean, let's not go there.
You're no longer getting caught.
No, I'm
in
gone.
this town
I'm running
anymore.
away forever. I felt terrible. Like, he reacted like he died.
Did he?
So
He flopped a little bit.
he flopped. He did.
He's a flopper.
He flopped a little bit. But I mean, to his credit, he's had plenty of bumps and bruises over. I mean, when you catch for 20 years in the big leagues, I think your body's pretty beat up. But I thought he could have handled it a little bit better. So I'm sorry, Sandy, though. I love you.
What's it like being around a legend like that, like Sandy, who's been with this organization, obviously legendary back in the 90s here for this team, a catcher, same position as you. What's it like kind of talking shop with a guy like that?
It's the best. It's the best. He's one of the smartest people I've ever been around in this game. He sees the game in slow motion. You know, one of the reasons he's such a good first base coach and why we're so successful stealing bases is because he sees tips on pitchers they are just microscopic. I'm talking like just the slight lift of a toe, the difference of a hat just up or slightly down. And this is when the guy's going home. This is when the guy's pitching. He sees the game really, really well. And then obviously from the catching side, it's such an advantage to have him in the dugout. Anything you need, he's there for you. He does our pregame prep. Between me and Bo, he does our pregame prep with us. Just having him there is it's very reassuring. Because when when he thinks you're doing it right, that you're probably doing it right.
For sure. We got to step aside. Should we keep going? You want to keep going?
I got nowhere to be.
All right, we'll keep going for like 2 more minutes. Don't go anywhere. More of the Big Play Cleveland Show with Austin Hedges right after this. Welcome on back into the Big Play Cleveland Show. We are joined by Cleveland Guardians catcher Austin Hedges in studio. Appreciate you popping in here. Appreciate you hanging out with Gab for the day. Hope that wasn't too bad.
I don't think it was too traumatizing, but he might say different.
Yeah, quite the different approach. Hey, so you talked about previously getting into coaching when you're done with baseball. Obviously, just from this conversation, I would say like the 3 of us plus Ryan definitely learned a lot of things that we didn't previously know before. What kind of makes you at least entertain that coaching path?
I just love baseball.
Yeah.
I've been doing it, obviously my whole life. It's all I know. I feel like I didn't go to college, so instead, I'd like to think, I think of it as, I got my PhD in baseball. I went to, my 5 years of school was the minor leagues, and then the extra post-grad was the first couple years in the big leagues. And now, I've been lucky enough to play it for a long enough time where I've had enough experiences, enough failures and successes that I've been able to weigh both of those and really learn from both of those. And I feel like I have a good idea of at least just how to handle myself or how to help people handle themselves on a day-to-day basis. Because this game over 162 is just it's another problem that a lot of people don't have any idea how hard it is. But through all those years, I've truly just fallen in love with the game. And if I can help the next generation come and learn at a quicker rate than I did, maybe have a little bit of success earlier in their careers, especially the young guys. That's what I'm passionate about. So whether that means any role in the game is what I'd like to do until I'm 100. I don't know.
So the next couple of weeks could be a lot of fun for the Guardians here as we look at our magic numbers shrinking. You look at the division. You look at making the playoffs. Could have some celebrations on the way. You're obviously World Series champion. You've been through those before. Do you have any strategies? Do you wear goggles? What do you do with the celebration process?
I don't wear goggles. I might this year. Call it earn the burn. You got to earn the burn. But it burns.
Okay.
Champagne in the eyes burns real bad. If you don't know that, it burns really bad. But not that many people have gotten to experience a champagne party, and that is.
I was gonna say it's good to know that, right? If you know that, you've had success.
That's right. But it is. There's nothing better. There's nothing better than being with your boys. You've been grinding for so many months in a row, and each chance you get to celebrate is worth it. When you clinch, if you win the division, each round. It's a really, really beautiful celebration because it was so hard to do. How hard it was to accomplish any of those things, whether it's just making the playoffs, winning a division, or winning an individual round, is so hard to do. And so, I'm looking forward to having 5 or 6 of them this year.
Very good. Love it. Cool. Austin, appreciate you popping in here, man. It was a lot of fun. hopefully we could do it again after, a lot of those celebrations way later this fall as we get ready for winter. But appreciate you popping in here with us.
Absolutely.
Can't wait to see him on the jet ski out there.
Yeah,
right.
big time.
We'll have to live broadcast you out there on the jet ski
with the trophy.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. That's going to happen. And a cigar.
That's right.
Shirtless, do the whole thing. I love it.
Right here on
Sign
Lake
me up.
Erie. All right, look at that. Austin Hedges, everybody. Thank you guys so much for tuning into that interview. We'll be back with more of the Big Play Cleveland Show right after this. Welcome on back into the Big Play Cleveland Show, and it's time for some fill in the blank presented by our friends at Affinity Whole Health.
Yeah, Nick, we had a long game yesterday for the Cleveland Browns. Ended up a nice victory, but certainly stressful if you're watching it. You know what I did after that game? Something that I have not done in a long time. I went out for a run.
All right.
Affinity Whole Health has had me on this program now for about 3 weeks, where I've been taking the vitamins, I've been taking the tea to get my low T up, and I'm starting to see the results, that's for sure. After a long, drawn-out game and a game that was very stressful, I ran 6 miles out there, and that felt really good. So check them out. Don't wait any longer. Click the link on our show clips to set up a free consultation, and you can check them out at their website, affinityWholeHealth.com. They've been helping me out, and Nick, they can help out a lot more people, so check them out. Thanks to my friends at Affinity Whole Health.
Yeah, and you could scan this QR code right on the screen right now and set up that free evaluation with our guys over at Affinity. We had Dr. Kohler in the studio with Josh and Maria Cribbs. It's awesome to see the way that they're helping people. And 6 miles, that's no joke of a run. That's a good run to put in.
That was a brag here on my part.
After a Browns game. Yeah, like I feel like if I had to go out there and run 6 miles right now, it would not go well. So make sure to set up that free consultation over at affinityWholeHealth.com. All right, let's jump into some fill in the blank. Chris, the AFC North team that scares me the most through the first 2 weeks of the NFL season is blank. Mind you, currently the Steelers are in first place.
At 2-0, right?
That's like that LeBron gif where he's like...
With not much of an offense. I don't know how they're doing it, smoke and mirrors, but that's the way the Steelers do it every single year. You know they're going to somehow, by hook or by crook, they're going to be there. But the team that really probably scares me the most out of this division right now is the Ravens. Lamar Jackson, he continues to be quick. He's fast. Once they get things going, I really think that they're going to be the class of this division. I know that the Bengals put up a heck of a fight yesterday with Kansas City, coming down to a last-second field goal there by Butker. But I really think, deep down, I think the Ravens are the team, the class of this division, and that's the team that we're going to have to beat.
Yeah, Chris, and when I look around this division and I look at Baltimore, they seem like the team to me that's just least problematic right now. Yeah. You look at Cincinnati, they got this Jamar Chase thing over their head like a black cloud. You look at Pittsburgh, they're in the heat of a QB controversy because now you're 2-0 with Justin Fields. They're saying Russell Wilson's not healthy. Week in, week out, they're playing who's our starting quarterback game. We know that as well as anyone. If you've got 2 quarterbacks, you've got 0 quarterbacks. And then you look at us and what we've got going on, kind of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde with the entire Deshaun Watson thing. Baltimore right now, unproblematic. They are 0-2, but you look at the teams that they've played, I think they can figure it out, and the Browns need to get ready for those divisional games when they happen later on in the season. Let's keep this thing moving. The Browns committing so many penalties, Chris, is blank. 24 penalties through 2 games for the Cleveland Browns.
It's absolutely unacceptable. And I'll take you to a drive. The second half, obviously, things slowed down for the Cleveland Browns. We let the Jacksonville Jaguars kind of back into that game. The second drive of that second half. First play, Foreman runs for 6 yards. Bitonio gets called for offensive holding. Browns lose 10 yards. Second play, Deshaun Watson's pass to Amari Cooper, incomplete. There's defensive pass interference. The Browns move forward 17 yards, so there's a good one. Third play, Watson completes a 2-yard pass to Tillman. Antonio Johnson called for roughing the passer. We move forward 14. Fourth play, Jerome Ford runs 3 yards. And then Posick was penalized for offensive holding. The Browns lose 10. So you see the way the penalties change the entire look at that entire drive for the Cleveland Browns. Both our penalties as well as for Jacksonville. The Browns have got to clean those things up so that we're not going back. If the other team's making mistakes, we can capitalize on those and we can continue momentum, because that's a real killer for us, Nick. And that's what we saw in that second half. And that's what we've seen in the first 2 games overall. Stefanski and co. have got to clean that stuff up.
And I mean, you could get through the first 2 weeks with 24 penalties. You could probably squeak by the New York Football Giants and maybe the Raiders and the Commanders with all of these penalties and some of the dysfunction that they've had on the offensive line. But when you look at these division games, that's not going to be the case. I don't think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to let you get away with all of those penalty yards. You know, good teams are going to make the Browns pay for those type of mistakes. They've got to clean it up. They've got a lot to work on, especially on that offensive side of the football. We'll answer some of those questions and more when we return right here on the Big Play Cleveland Show. Don't go anywhere. Welcome on back into the Big Play Cleveland Show. Chris, the Browns getting blank player black from injury this week would give the team the biggest boost as we head into the next
I think we need some help along the offensive line. I'd like to see Jed Wills get back in there. I'd like to see Jack Conklin get back in there. I think if we can start getting those pieces back in place along the line, I think that makes things easier for the offense, makes things easier for Deshaun Watson, and makes that offense ready to go a lot better than it was in the second half there against the Jaguars.
I'm going to say, can the real Amari Cooper please stand up? I mean, the drops have been very strange, very unorthodox stuff out of Amari Cooper. I don't know if it's things that happened with the trade. I don't know if he's just got a little bit of yips for whatever reason on the field. I think if the Browns could have some pass catchers be reliable for Deshaun Watson and come down with the ball, maybe the offense will look a smidge better. Chris,
props to Jerry Jeudy, by the way. Jerry Jeudy
awesome.
Looked really good.
Yeah.
Looked really good. For everything that we haven't seen out of Cooper, we've seen a lot out of Jerry Jeudy. I know there was a lot of people who were wondering about this move in the offseason from Andrew Berry. So far, the early returns looking good.
And that's the future. That's the future of this Browns receiving group is Jerry Jeudy. Chris, how do the Browns beat the Giants, and what's your final score prediction?
I think the Browns beat the Giants if they create turnovers. Daniel Jones had a bunch of turnovers in week 1, had 0 in the game against the Redskins there. They still ended up taking an L there. But if you can get Daniel Jones under some pressure, under duress, cause him to make some bad throws and cause him to make some turnovers, then I think we're in good shape. I'm going to say Browns 32, Giants 10. I like us kind of taking the reins back at home. Home was really the magic for us last year, and I'm looking for us to get back to that level again this year, and I think that starts on Sunday against the Giants.
Yeah, and that's a lot of points. You mentioned turnovers. The Browns right now have to lead the NFL in almost turnovers. I could think of 3 plays where Denzel Ward almost had an interception. I could think of the one where Martin Emerson Jr. had it, and it popped out. I think finally capitalizing on some of those opportunities against a bad team like the Giants will only benefit the Cleveland Browns. I'm going to go a little bit more lower scoring. I got to see the offense break 20 before I can pick them to go to 30. I'm going to go Cleveland Browns 24, Washington Commanders 14. The Browns get a comfortable 10-point win, cover that 7-point spread at home here in Cleveland. Hopefully things look the way they're supposed to, as those Giants are going to be hungry for a win as well. Hey, we're going to step aside. When we return, we're bringing the heat with Jensen Lewis. Going to jump into all things baseball, all things Guardians. Don't go anywhere. More of the Big Play Cleveland Show right after this. Welcome on back into the Big Play Cleveland Show. It's time to talk a little bit more about the Cleveland Guardians. It's our Bring in the Heat segment with Jensen Lewis, and it's all brought to you guys by our friends over at Northeast Factory Direct. Chris, you know I just bought a brand new house, and furnishing that house is quite the task, is what I've learned, but you know what? My guys at Northeast Factory Direct have been a massive help. You guys got to go check them out in store. Cleveland, Euclid, Macedonia, or North Canton. You can check out all that they have online at northeastfactorydirect.com. But go check them out in store. It's truly a great furniture shopping experience. I was able to get the entire back patio finished, Chris, just in time for the fall. I'm going to be out there enjoying the nice couple of months that we have left. Huge thanks out to everybody at Northeast Factory Direct. Make sure you guys ask them about the Big Play bonus when you stop in store. You're getting ready to check out. Ask about the Big Play bonus. I got it. You should get it too. You're going to be glad that you did. We're bringing in Jensen Lewis. It's time for Bringing the Heat. Jensen, the Twins are in town. Minnesota's been up and down this season. What version of the Twins should the Guardians expect during this 4-game series?
Yeah, Nick, it feels like a last gasp, right, for them to have any hope whatsoever within the division, but still a lot to play for in the overall American League postseason picture. Of course, coming into the week, occupying that final wild card spot. And I mean, the way that Detroit has played here the last 3 to 4 weeks, they're hot on their tails. I think entering the week just 2.5 games back as you look at the standings, along with the Seattle Mariners. So they've got to fight to the finish just to make the postseason. But yeah, if they had any designs, they have to sweep Cleveland to have any chance of trying to run them down for the Central Division title.
Jensen, Jose Ramirez this week became the first Cleveland player to join the 35-35 club. Does he still get enough recognition around the league for what he's doing here in Cleveland, or is he still getting kind of forgotten at times around baseball?
Chris, I think it's certainly improved, but obviously more can be showered upon him as far as praise, as far as appreciation of what he's done year in and year out. There's no question that he is the best all-around third baseman, not just in the American League, but one can argue in all of baseball. At least how you look at it, from all the metrics, from the intangibles, the leadership. We've talked a lot, guys, throughout the year about what does most valuable player really mean. And uniquely in our division this year, we've got a great example in Bobby Witt Jr., and I think a lot can go towards what Vinny Pasquantino meant for that lineup and for what that team's performance was like overall. So you take Bobby Witt Jr. away from the Royals, no question, the Royals aren't where they are. You take Jose Ramirez away from Cleveland, boy, it's a scary thing to think about, because he just does so many things game in and game out that really affect their overall performance.
Jensen, you're a pitcher. What's going on with Alex Cobb? Do we need to put some mittens on him? Do we have to do the whole George Costanza to make sure that those hands stay okay? What is going on right now with Alex Cobb?
Gosh, Chris, it feels extremely unlucky, right? And it's not his fault, to kind of put it fairly. These are just wear and tear items that do happen, and everyone's skin is different. For me, I can relate from a standpoint of you just got to be mindful of those humid times, and then going to some dry climates and the heat that could dry you out a little bit. But just unlucky. That feels like the word I keep coming back to describe his situation. Now, yeah, let's hope that this is it. This is the final hurdle, because you got this week, you've got next week, and if the Guardians are able to reach that division series without having to play through the wild card round, that's another 4 days that they can try and get Alex Cobb, at least if he's not back in the rotation by then, some sim games, and try and figure out if he's going to be on this postseason rush. You would assume he would if he's healthy, just because of the reason they went out and got him at the deadline.
Aniel Martinez back up here with the big club. That's a guy that we gave a lot of praise to early in this season. We just talked about Jose a little bit. Aniel has that same kind of swagger, just has the look that he belongs up in the major leagues. He reached base 4 times in his first 2 games back. In your opinion, Jensen, what does somebody like Martinez bring to this Guardians lineup?
Yeah, it dynamic, right, Nick? And to think of the versatility that we've seen from a lot of different players that Stephen Vogt has had at his disposal when called up from the minor leagues, it almost feels like, hey, you're getting a window into next year for those position players. If you can't play infield and outfield, you've got an uphill battle, because it means so much for what Stephen Vogt does on a day in and day out basis. But boy, is Martinez a spark plug or what? I mean, a lot of energy. The kid smiles. He really can impact the game at the plate, on the base paths, in the field. What a weapon, I think. Maybe a bit more under the radar, obviously, from a national perspective, but I think could fill some key spots. And perhaps when you look towards October, might be a key member of this post. Not saying he'll make it, but definitely will be in serious consideration just because of all the different things that he can do.
Do you think he fits the conversation that we had last week about Kyle Manzardo? Maybe they were kind of hiding him a little bit, if you will, in AAA. And obviously, Manzardo was a little bit tough to hide because of the power and the success that he had down there. But maybe Martinez, a guy, do you think, that can make an impact in October because teams weren't necessarily having him front and center on their game plan night in, night out?
Yeah, Nick, if you remember when he came up, he kind of hit the ground running.
Yeah.
It really was awesome in most statistical categories. And then the league was able to catch up to him. But that happens with every player. When you're off to a quick start, that scouting report really gets buffed up in a big way, and pitchers make their adjustments. For me now, obviously you look at him and see the game slow down a bit. I think it's also the instincts, and I think it's also the athleticism that give him a leg up when they're going in and looking at, who's going to be number 23, 24, 25, 26 on that postseason roster. And I'm sure a lot of that will be matchup dependent, but also when you have the abilities that he does in many different facets, that's a guy that, again, not all the teams have seen him. You look at the American League teams that have, and hey, it's always an avenue to go down when you're trying to gain every advantage possible in October.
Speaking of advantages come October, one of the big advantages that the Guardians have had this year is that bullpen. And right now, we've talked a lot about Clase, how just unbelievable he's been. When you look at that bullpen overall, we got 5 guys with an ERA of 2.0 or below. That's pretty incredible. What is the secret to this bullpen? What are they doing out there that makes them so effective night in, night out, Jensen?
Yeah, it's one of the most impressive units that I've watched since being on this side of the ledger. And I believe still going into this week, Cade Smith is either number 1 or I'm pretty sure he's still top 5 as far as bullpen wins above replacement is concerned. You had Smith up there. I know Hunter Gaddis has been up there. Obviously, Emmanuel Clase has been there. I think they've accounted themselves, guys, when it's all said and done to this point in the season, for at least 5 in the WAR department, 5.5. I mean, that's your difference right now, almost in the Central Division. You mentioned the depth, and there's 2 ways to win in October with a pitching staff that may not have the starting pitching depth, and that's probably where the Guardians are at this point, to be fair and balanced. What I love is that you're not asking, and this might go, circa 2016, guys, when we had Kluber, and then you were trying to piece it together with Bauer before, Drone Gate, and then Josh Tomlin was trying to miss barrels, and he did an admirable job. But remember, it was Cody Allen, and it was Andrew Miller, and it was Brian Shaw, and you mix in another guy or two, and don't forget that they, won Game 3 in Toronto with that full bullpen game. And so there's I think a history here of knowing how to do it. Carl Willis, understood it and saw what they needed to do then. And I think what they will probably end up doing now. But to go 5 deep and have 5 guys that in any leverage position have the upper hand, you just don't see that, especially the way that these guys have done it for the consistency of the regular season.
Speaking of upper hand, you look at these last 12 games for the Guardians, 9 of them are going to be at home. That's got to feel good as an organization. You've kind of earned that right now to potentially clinch the playoffs, clinch the division at home in front of your fans over the course of the next couple of weeks. So talk about that a little bit. What is this team kind of looking forward to as we wrap up the season?
Yeah, Chris, it was in our minds my rookie year in 2007. We knew where the magic number was when we were home, and we knew that Oakland series, if we did what we were capable of, and fortunately at that point, all we had to do was win. We didn't have to worry about any other teams losing. We knew that if we took care of business on that I think it was a Sunday day game. And it's an experience unlike, there is nothing better than a champagne bath. And knowing that the marathon of the season, guys, that we are such an outlier when it comes to that. You go through so many ups and downs, and you deserve to celebrate. And I hope they do multiple times. Whenever they clinch a playoff spot, hopefully it's this week. And then we hope that when they clinch the Central Division, I hope they party twice. And I hope they absolutely enjoy every moment of it, because as a rookie, I got it first year, first taste. I'm like, I'm going to do this every year. And I never got back after that. And so you just appreciate how difficult the journey is. but the reward at the end of it, and that's not the end of the journey. That's your checkpoint. You've achieved one goal. That's to get in the tournament. Goal number 2, you want to win the division. And hopefully this week they can achieve both those goals.
So I don't remember the pictures from back in the day. Were you one of the guys wearing goggles when you were celebrating? Were you protecting those eyes when all of the champagne is going? No.
You want the burn. I didn't want to see for 12 hours, man. I wanted all those bubbles, man. The only thing that was different is I had the long sideburn chop still, and the bald spot was just coming in the back of my head. But that's the one time you're allowed to spray, and you have to be nice about it, or you just do a nice courteous dump on any the manager, any of the front office guys that are in there. That's really the only time you can have that to be okay. But those guys deserve as much credit. I mean, those coaches, guys, I don't think people realize that the daily grind and the hours that the coaching staff, obviously voter, and what this front office has to do on a daily basis to get this team into the position that they are year in and year out. But I'll give you guys something to chew on throughout the week. Remember where we were when we had the Stephen Vogt press conference and the lead up to that, and the whole surprise of this guy's never managed at any level, much less been a coach in the big leagues for 5-6 years. It was just a couple of years. And to have the seamless transition from surefire first ballot Hall of Famer and Terry Francona and what he meant in changing the culture and making this team a contender. Hats off to Voter. And to make this, he's made it look very easy. I'm sure there have been some sleepless nights and trying to make adjustments and hold the line at certain points. But he and what Chris and Cherney and the rest of the front office, the scouting department, there are so many people behind the scenes that are as important to making this thing happen on the field. And the players deserve a ton of credit too. But it is a true organizational win when you get to the postseason, because every person has a hand in it and they feel like they're a piece of the puzzle.
Straight ahead, we ask Jensen Lewis our direct question of the week. And if you've got playoffs on your mind, you're not going to want to miss this. More of the Big Play Cleveland Show right after this. Welcome on back into the Big Play Cleveland Show. It's time to hit Jensen Lewis with our direct question of the week, presented to you guys by our friends at Northeast Factory Direct. Jensen, of the top teams in the American League, the Yankees, the Astros, the Orioles, who do the Cleveland Guardians match up with the best in a best-of-5 series?
Yeah, you can make arguments, I think, for both Baltimore and New York. And each team that I think gets into the American League side, Nick, has their own individual Achilles heels. They all have their own trouble spots. The Yankees trying to figure out how they're going to collect the final 6 to 9 outs, night in and night out, and especially in October, I think is a huge issue for them. What does the bottom of the lineup look like, and how are they able to try and turn it over to Soto and Judge? I think the Orioles also have that similar problem or issue that they'll have to address as far as their rotation goes. We know who's starting game 1. It's going to be Tanner Bybee for the Guardians. It's going to be Corbin Burns for the Baltimore Orioles. After that, how do you deploy both rotations? And as I said to you guys many times, whoever gets the buys and does not have to go through those pitching resources to get through the wild card round will have a massive advantage moving into that divisional round. And I think Houston is probably the most, or at least the most well-positioned club as far as their rotation depth, as far as their bullpen depth, and they're getting healthy with the offense at the right time. They're the most complete team when healthy entering October. But as I've said to you guys before, I'll reiterate it again. This is the most wide open I think the American League side of the bracket has been, at least in the last 5 to 10 years.
Man, fun things to think about with Jensen Lewis. Make sure you guys go follow him, a follow on social media at JLew50. Jensen, appreciate you popping in. We'll do it again next week.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you next week.
Talk to you next week. Hey, thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of the Big Play Cleveland Show. We'll do it again next week. Huge thanks to our friends over at Northeast Factory Direct as well. Make sure to check out their great locations in Cleveland, Euclid, Macedonia, North Canton, and ask them about that Big Play bonus. We'll see you guys next time on another episode of Big Play Cleveland.